The 22nd of June, 1941, Eastern Europe. At dawn, the German invasion of the Soviet Union begins, and the front stretches from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea. In the Baltic states, the German units advance rapidly, and behind the regular troops come the mobile killing squads of Einsatzgruppe A. Their task is clear from the first hours: to hunt down and murder Jews, communists, and anyone seen as an enemy. The campaign moves with terrifying speed. In Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, shooting pits fill within days. In the Latvian city of Liepāja, where German forces push toward a vital naval base on the Baltic shore, the terror begins almost immediately. Einsatzgruppe A and its subordinate commandos arrest civilians, seize control of the streets, and begin systematic executions. Local collaborators join the Germans, and within a few weeks, the killing becomes a daily routine. In Liepāja alone, around 5,000 Jewish men, women, and children are murdered by the end of 1941. However, these atrocities will not remain unpunished, and the perpetrators will pay for their crimes with their own lives. Liepāja, a coastal city in western Latvia, was an important place for Nazi Germany, a naval base and a key strategic point on the Baltic coast. The occupiers needed complete control over the city and its population, and because they suspected that Liepāja was full of communists, Jews, and other supposed enemy sympathizers, they decided to eliminate any possible enemies of Nazi Germany. The first killings began even before the Germans secured full control of the city. In the nearby town of Grobina, members of the Einsatzgruppe, a German mobile murder unit, killed 6 Jews in the church graveyard during the first night of the invasion against the Soviet Union. Random shootings followed also in the days after, as German soldiers, acting on their own or under vague orders, dragged Jewish men off the streets and shot them on the spot, sometimes using a bomb crater as an improvised execution site. The executions became more organized as German forces captured Liepāja on the 29th of June 1941, and the members of the Arājs Kommando entered the city and set up their headquarters in the city's Hotel St. Petersburg. The Germans quickly began using trenches dug earlier by Soviet troops in Rainis Park, in the city center, as killing grounds. On the 3rd and 4th of July 1941, hundreds of Jews were rounded up, marched to the trenches, and shot. Their bodies were covered over, and further groups of victims were brought to fill the same pits. At the same time, Liepāja's new German authorities issued their first decrees. The city came under the control of the German Navy, and its local commandant ordered the shooting of 10 hostages from the civilian population for every act of sabotage. Soon, Germans introduced another strict anti-Jewish regulation. Jews had to wear yellow stars on the front and back of their clothing, could shop only during fixed 2-hour periods, and were forbidden from using public transport, attending events, or walking on the beach. They were required to step off the pavement for any German in uniform. Jewish shops were marked with signs reading Jewish-owned businesses. Radios, typewriters, and vehicles were confiscated. The process of segregation, humiliation, and extermination had begun. Throughout July 1941, the killings became systematic. Erhard Graul, commander of a detachment from Einsatz Kommando, took control of the women's prison in Liepāja and turned it into a detention center for civilians targeted by the Nazi regime as enemies. Graul ordered the shooting of hostages, claiming that they were reprisals for supposed attacks on German patrols. On the 7th of July, 1941, about 30 Jews and communists were executed on the beach near the lighthouse outside the city. when Grau was accused by his superior officer, Franz Walter Stahlecker, leader of Einsatzkommando A, of not killing people fast enough. Larger massacres soon followed, and Grau was replaced by Wolfgang Kügler. Under his direction, the murders continued, and at the end of July, the infamous Arājs Kommando, a Latvian auxiliary unit trained in Riga, arrived to assist the Germans in their campaign of mass killings. Working alongside the SS, they murdered around 900 Jews in 2 days. The largest massacre in Liepaja, the killings at Šķēde north of Liepāja, came in mid-December 1941. The operation was commanded by SS officer Wolfgang Kügler, with assistance from Latvian guards. On the 13th of December 1941, a notice appeared in the local newspaper instructing all Jews to remain in their homes for 2 days. That night, Latvian police began arresting people, and the prison courtyards soon overflowed with men, women, and children. From the prison, they were taken and marched to the dunes at Skede near Liepāja, where a long trench about 100 meters long and 3 meters wide had been dug. At dawn, on the 15th of December 1941, the shootings began. The victims were taken to a barn near the beach, ordered to undress, and driven toward the pit. German and Latvian guards beat those who hesitated, and SS officers whipped the prisoners to keep them moving. At the edge of the trench, they were shot in groups of 10. After each volley, a German walked along the pit, firing finishing shots into those who were still alive. Behind him came a kicker. For example, a Latvian policeman whose task was to kick, roll, or push the bodies into the pit. The killing lasted 3 days. By the end of the 17th of December 1941, 2,731 Jews and 23 communists had been murdered. The shootings at Šķēde were among the few Holocaust crimes in Latvia captured on camera, and to this day it is the only known surviving film footage of Einsatzgruppe mass executions. By June 1942, Liepaja's Jewish community had been almost entirely exterminated. Of the roughly 5,700 Jews who had lived there before the German invasion in June 1941, there were only about 814 surviving Jews. The survivors were confined to a small ghetto of 11 houses and forced into hard labor for the German Navy and occupying authorities. Hunger, cold, exhausting work, and disease killed many. In October 1943, on Yom Kippur, one of the holiest days in Judaism, the ghetto was liquidated. The last remaining Jews were deported to Riga, the capital of Latvia, and only a handful of them survived the war. In 1943, as the Second World War, launched by Germany on the 1st of September 1939, turned decisively against the Nazis, they returned to the shooting sites in an attempt to conceal their crimes. They poured chlorine over the corpses to hasten decomposition. Yet the photographs, the film footage, and the prints preserved by David Zivkon ensure that the massacre could never be erased. A number of the perpetrators responsible for the mass shootings in and around Liepāja were punished through death during the war, execution after it, or prison sentences handed down by post-war courts. Franz Stahlecker, head of Einsatzgruppe A and one of the main architects of mass murder in Latvia, was killed by Soviet partisans in March 1942. Fritz Dietrich, the police chief involved in organizing the December 1941 massacre, was captured after the war, tried by an American military tribunal for ordering the execution of captured American airmen, and hanged at Landsberg prison in 1948. Wolfgang Kügler, the SS officer who directed much of the killing in Liepāja, was sentenced in an early post-war trial to be fined and spend a short time in prison. When additional evidence of his role emerged in 1959, he was arrested once more, and before facing trial again, he hanged himself. Hans Baumgartner, responsible for mass deportations and shootings of Jews and other civilians in Latvia, was arrested in East Germany in 1969. His trial established his role in the murder of more than 6,000 people, and he was sentenced to death and executed by shooting in Leipzig in 1971. Latvian collaborators also faced judicial reckoning. Viktors Arājs, the commander of the Arājs Kommando, was finally tried in Hamburg in 1979. His central role in mass executions, including those in Liepāja, was fully established, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment, dying in prison in 1988. Soviet courts likewise prosecuted members of his unit after the end of the war, and sentenced 30 men to death for their roles in the mass shootings of the civilian population. Karl Emil Strott, a member of the SS who took pictures of the victims during the executions at Šķēde, received a 7-year sentence in prison. With the entrance of the Red Army to Liepāja and its liberation on the 9th of May, 1945, approximately 20 Jews were found in the city. Some of them had fled and survived. Some had found shelter with Latvian acquaintances. Some had acquired forged Christian identification papers, and 11 Jews had hidden in a basement in the area of the Ghetto on the night before its liquidation. They had remained there for a year and a half until liberation, with the help of righteous among the nations Robert Sedus and his wife Johanna. After the war, the city of Liepāja itself changed a lot. Under Soviet rule, it was closed to outsiders as a naval base and nuclear weapons storage facility, and the memory of the massacres faded into silence. Only in the late 20th century did historians reconstruct the full sequence of events. Local memorials were erected near the dunes where the largest shootings took place, and on Liepāja Cemetery. The photographs of the December 1941 executions, showing the last moments of victims on the cold Baltic shore, became enduring symbols of the destruction of an entire community, and a lasting reminder of the vibrant society that fell victim to the brutal and murderous regime of Nazi Germany and its local collaborators. Before we end today's story, take a look at worldhistory.tv, your special destination for true history lovers. Discover exclusive documentaries and incredible stories you won't find anywhere else. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more.